This is video 3.3, and the goal of this video is to be able to solve equations with fractions. So here's your first example. This 5 minus 7x over 6 equals 3 over 2. So we got a couple of fractions here, and the hard part is we don't like fractions. We're not very good at them. We make mistakes. They're frustrating, whatever. Fractions, the number one goal when solving these problems is to not have fractions anymore. So we're going to do a clever strategy to get rid of the fractions that doesn't change the value of x, which is what we're trying to solve for, but it allows us to get rid of those fractions quickly. And the simple thing that we do is we create ones by multiplying the entire equation by a number. So a 1, remember, can look like many things. A 1 could be 6 over 6 or 5x over 5x. Those are ones. And so we create ones by keeping, remember, it's this top and the bottom have to have the same factor on top and bottom, the 6 and the 6, the 5x and the 5x. And then it creates a 1 that is easy to work with. Ones are easy, fractions harder. So we're going to create those ones by multiplying the entire thing by a number. And the trick is what number? Well, what we do is we look at the fraction and we look at the bottoms. That's what we want to get rid of. If we don't have a denominator, then we don't have fractions. Now, one quick thing, 5, remember, is 5 over 1. So when you have a number that's not a fraction and you need it to be a fraction, we put it over 1. Because anything divided by 1 is still the same number. 5 divided by 1 is 5. So I'm going to keep that 1 under there, but I'm going to look at the three numbers in the bottom now, the 6, the 2, the 1, and think, okay, what can I multiply by to create a 1? I have to multiply by at least 2 to get rid of the 2, but actually I need to multiply by 6. Now let's think about it. 6 over 2. If I multiply by 6, I'd get this 2 on the bottom with a 6 on top and the 3 on top. Not really important at this point. The 2 will cancel. So what we do, remember, is we pick the smallest common multiple. And that common multiple is 6 because 2 goes into 6. So I'm going to times everything by 6. The left side and everything on the right side. Both sides, everything by 6. Now remember that 6 is really 6 over 1. We don't want to do 6 over 6 because then we create a bigger number on the bottom. We don't want numbers on the bottom. So it's really 6 over 1. And this will create some 1s that will cancel and keep me simple. You make it simpler. So let's see, 6 times 5. Doesn't really matter if they're 1s because it's really just 6 times 5, which is 30. Then I'm going to do 6 times this stuff. So the way I would write that is 7x times 6 over 6, because 6 times 1 is just 6. The 6 on the bottom stays. Do you see the 1 that was created? Remember, that's our whole goal. See that 1? So that's going to be gone. So I really can rewrite the left side as 30 minus 7x. Now the right side. On the right side, we have 6 times 3 over 2 times 1. So we have 18 on top, 2 on bottom. And again, that simplifies because there's a 1 that's created. I could think of the 18 as 9 times 2 over 2, and the 1 is in the 2's. So 9 is the result. But we know 18 divided by 2 is 9. So look, I have a very simple equation to solve now. Now I use my typical strategies that I've been using all year long, and I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. I'm going to get the x alone. And I'm going to divide both sides by -7. And I get a nice answer. X is 3. So once you do this first step, this step that is described in this how statement right here, once you do that first step, you will have a much simpler equation to solve, and it'll be much easier. So the trick is knowing what to multiply by. So let's look at a couple more examples. We won't walk through the entire example because it's the first step that's the hardest. So let's take a look. Remember, we want to multiply by something so the bottoms cancel. So it looks like I have to multiply by x because there's an x in both of these. So if I had an x on top and an x on bottom, they would cancel. So I have to multiply by x. But then I also look at the numbers and I see, okay, what's the least common multiple for both of those? And the answer is 9. They both go into 9. Okay, I don't want to do the smaller number, the 3. I want to do the bigger number, the 9. So the 9 will cancel. So that leaves me with multiplying everything by 9x over 1, of course. 9x over 1. So everything's going to get multiplied by that, and then we'll simplify and see where we're at. So let's see. We're going to do 9x times 2. So that's going to give me 18x over x. 1 times x. And then 9x times 4. And that gives me 36x over 1 times 3x. 3x. And then on the right, I'm going to have 2 times 9x is 18x's over 9 times 1, 9. Now I'm going to simplify. I'm going to find as many 1's as I can. Here's a 1 with the x's. These x's also create a 1. Now how about my numbers? Let's see. This is just going to be 18, so I'm done with the leftmost part. Minus, let's see, 36x over 3. Okay, so 36 over 3. 36 over 3, that creates 12, because 36 divided by 3 is 12. So 18 minus 12 on the left. On the right, the x is going to stay because there's no x on the bottom, but 18 over 9 can be simplified into a 2. So I'm left with 2x on the right and 18 minus 12 on the left. 18 minus 12, well, I know that's 6, equals 2x. I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I get my answer. And I'm done. So it's really just this first step. That's the tricky part. So if you can get through that first step, everything else becomes back to basics. So please ask questions if you're not sure on that first step and what it is that you should do to both sides. So again, we have 3 fractions. They have 3 different denominators, 3 different bottoms, 8, 5, and 3. So another strategy to help you out if you're wondering what to multiply by, another idea is you can get rid of 1 fraction at a time. So let's say I just want to get rid of the 8. So I times everything by 8 over 1. So I'm going to work that out. I'm going to times this by 8, but I see the 8's would cancel, so I'm going to be left with x. Okay. I also need to do 8 times this and this. Let's see. So I'm going to be left with 8x because it won't cancel with the bottom. So I'm timesing everything by 8. So now I'm also going to times this by 8. And I get minus 8 times 1 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. So I got rid of 1 fraction. You can get rid of them one at a time if you'd like. So now I'm going to get rid of the 5 by multiplying everything by 5. So I'm going to multiply this first one by 5 and get 5x. The second one by 5, remember the 5 on top and the 5 on bottom would cancel, so I'd be left with 8 times 8x. Let's see, 8x over 1, which is just 8x. And then this next one, 5 times 8, 3 times 1. I'm going to be left with 40 over 3. So 3 is still down there. So I have one more step to get rid of my fraction, and my last step is to times everything by 3. So 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 8x is 24x. And then 3 times 40 over 3, remember that would be 3 times 40 over 3 times 1. The 3's would make a nice 1, and I'd be left with 40. So this took me a few more steps, but if you're not sure what to do, just start with something. Get rid of one of the denominators. Now I'm just going to solve like normal by subtracting. And it looks like I'm going to get negative 9x equals negative 40. And I'm going to divide both sides by negative 9. It looks like I'm not going to get a nice answer this time. I'm going to get, if I divide that out, it would be about 4.4 repeating is what I'd get if I wrote that as a decimal. So it wasn't a nice number, but we can still find the answer. And that's the exact answer, 4.4 repeating. Or you could write the answer as 40 over 9. That's as simple as it gets. That's the final answer. So one other idea for you is to multiply by one denominator at a time and simplify as you go. So that's another idea. Give it your best shot. Try these next few problems. See if you can ask some questions if you're not getting the hang of it or if you feel like you're doing something wrong. Okay, but your teacher will be around to help us.